G'day, welcome to Navadia. Testicle! Yes, I may as well recycle an old joke, but this works so well in with my previous video on, well, testicles. I just could not do a video not on this. I just could not do a video on this. Once or twice a year, I look on the website Improbable Research. It publishes a magazine called Annals of Improbable Research and is more famously known for its yearly awards ceremony, the Ig Nobel Prize. It is always worth looking at for a giggle. Their tagline is research that makes people laugh and then think. And it's true. Some of my favourites have been a physics prize for Patricia Yang, Alexander Lee, Miles Chan, Aileen Martin, Ashley Edwards, Scott Carver and David Hugh for studying how and why wombats make cube-shaped poo. The anthropology prize to Thomas Persson, Gabriella Alina Sauquit, whatever her name is, and Elaine Marsden for collecting evidence in a zoo that chimpanzees imitate humans about as often and about as well as humans imitate chimpanzees. And my personal favourite, just for the snark, the 2010 Economics Prize, which was awarded to the executives and directors of Goldman Sachs, AIG, Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, Merrill Lynch, and Magnetar for creating and promoting new ways to invest money, ways that will maximise financial gain and minimise financial risk for the world economy, or a portion thereof. For those of you too young to remember this, because terrifyingly that was a decade ago, these companies set up a financial system that caused the world's economy to a collapse in 2008, known as the global financial crisis. Anyway, last year they awarded French researchers, and because this is French, I'm 100% going to ruin their names, Roger Musset and Bourras Bengoufia. These people.
Roger Musset and Bourras Bengoufida for measuring scrotal temperature asymmetry in naked and clothed postmen in France.
The paper cited was published in Human Reproduction, which has an impact factor of 5.506, which is actually a pretty impressive score considering how niche the journal is. It was also found in the Oxford Academic Journal database. Of course, the link to the paper is found in the description below. The background of the paper says scrotal temperatures in men have been reported to be either similar on both sides or higher in the left than the right scrotum. They aim to clarify this discrepancy from new data. They got volunteers aged 20 to 52 years of age and split them into 3 groups. They attached probes to collect data, which was measured every 2 minutes. In experiment 1, they had 8 men stay in 4 successive body positions for 15 minutes each, both clothed and naked. In experiment 2, they had 11 postal employees working in a standing position for 90 minutes continuously. And in experiment 3, they got 11 bus drivers driving continuously for 90 minutes. They were looking for differences in the left and right scrotal temperatures because why not? Previous studies in 1973, 1988, 1989 and 1995 using mercury thermometers showed there were no differences in scrotal temperature from the right and the left, but using infrared thermometry and cutaneous thermometers showed a difference. Basically, they looked at temperature differences using an infrared thermometer or a thermocouple. I've linked a video below which explains what a thermocouple is. Surprisingly, because it's science, there has already been measurements of scrotal temperature using continuous recording systems already. The first one was in 1990 and has since been applied in several studies. Lech et al. In 1993 found no difference in the right and left scrotum in 6 normal fertile men, while in contrast, Jung et al. In 2001 reported there was a median value for scrotal temperature measured over 24 hours in 10 fertile men of 34.99 C on the right and 35.29 C on the left. A follow-up study by the same authors in 2005 found the average scrotal temperature was significantly higher on the left, which was 35.56 degrees Celsius, than on the right, which was 35.37 C in 50 healthy clothed men. That is a temperature difference of 0.19 degrees Celsius, which is actually pretty big when it comes to biological systems. This paper was published in 2007. So what they did was they went to the ethics committee, because that's kind of the first thing you do in a situation like this. They obviously approved of it. The volunteers gave written informed consent as well. They took readings every 2 minutes and used the same equipment in all 3 experiments, which was the model AM-7001 precision skin thermometer. Probes were connected to a data collector, which was held in a leather case. They attached the probes using transparent tape because having sticky balls is what some people like. Hey, I'm not king shaming you. Data was then transferred to a statistical program on a personal computer. In the part in the paper where they were explaining all men were healthy, there was a genuinely beautiful sentence. Testicular volumes were evaluated with calipers in experiment 1 and a Prada orchidometer in experiments 2 and 3. I just had a wonderful vision of the researchers with a pair of calipers measuring the diameter of a person's testicle. Also, an orchidometer is a thing that measures the volume of a testicle, which you can also buy on Amazon, because why not? And to make it even better, the one you can buy on Amazon is the same company that the researchers used. This is beautiful. In the first experiment, 8 fertile men, meaning they have fathered at least 1 child, hopefully, were asked to stay in 4 successive body positions for 15 minutes in the same room. I'm assuming they were alone at the time because the probes were placed with the men naked and standing. I don't know about you, but if I were a volunteer for this, I'd want to be alone. While in the nud, they went into the supine position, which is basically a fancy way to say lying on their backs. Temperature recording started after about 3 to 5 minutes of acclimation. They laid like that for 15 minutes, then were asked to move into a standing position, again in the nud, for 15 minutes. After that, they sat down with their legs spread at an angle of approximately 70 degrees and seated with their legs crossed. When their legs were crossed, the position of left over right or vice versa was not recorded. I can see some reviewers of this paper might have a bit of an issue with that. The men dressed in long sleeve shirts, boxer shorts and trousers, all of which were cotton and lightweight. They then repeated the same positions again, but this time clothed. So that was experiment 1. Experiment 2 were 11 people who worked at a postal sorting office. The reason why they chose these people was because their work required them to stand for an hour and a half continuously. This was preceded by about 10 minutes of walking. Because their work was to sort mail into pigeonholes, that didn't require a lot of walking. They chose to use these workers. 7 of the workers were fertile because they had at least 1 child, hopefully, and 4 weren't fathers, but they didn't have any history of reproductive issues. The scientists stuck the probes on the people's saggy sisters an hour before starting work and the data was recorded. It was then collected at the end of their shift. I'm assuming during the medical exam, they used the orchidometer they possibly got from Amazon on them, because you can buy an orchidometer on Amazon. Things that you learn. The third experiment included 11 bus drivers. They were selected because their work required them to sit continuously for 90 minutes, which was preceded by walking for 10 to 15 minutes. 8 men had kids, presumably, where 3 had not. Again, they had their medical history taken, their leg boobs measured, and the probes were stuck to them an hour before their work started. What were the results? The left testicle is warmer than the right one. Hooray! Except for when the men were naked. This was consistent among all 3 experiments, all of which had a p-value of 0.05 or less. This means there was statistical significance to reject the null hypothesis. In non-statistician vocab, the data collected meant that there was a 95% or more % chance that their hypothesis of less testicles are warmer than right testicles was correct. Again, if you want to go and read the paper in all of its mathematical glory, the link is in the description below. Why is there a difference? Well, the penis has a higher temperature than the wiener boobs. When someone is wearing underwear, 89% of the time, the penis is positioned on the left meat truffle. It is known that genital asymmetry exists as well because based on post-mortem measurements, the left Christ apple is 7 to 10% smaller than the right one. So what does this mean clinically? Practically speaking, it is considered to be necessary to measure both right and left loin purse temperatures if conducting an experimental or epidemiological studies that deal with the seed sacs. There's a few problems that I have with this study, mainly the n-value or the number of participants in the study. Overall, there were 30 people who participated in the study. This means that any outlier may impact on the results and be harder to pick up. For example, if one person had an unusual temperature difference to the norm, they would have a much bigger impact on the average scrotal difference than they would have in a study of, say, 100 people. or even 1,000 people. As a rule, the bigger the N value, the better. They also did one type of standing and sitting occupation. A better study would also include other occupations such as checkout workers and accountants, and over a longer period of time, such as a week, and at different times of year. As I mentioned earlier, they also didn't make note if the left or the right leg was on top in the cross-legged position in experiment 1. However, this study confirms the result of other studies, so it adds to the aggregate that the left testicle tends to be warmer than the right one. Well, at least when the person is wearing clothes, according to this study. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm glad I was able to give you more information about the majestical testicles and their ability to regulate heat. And don't forget, scandium, iodine, nitrogen, and cerium. A special thank you to my wonderful patrons, especially my $10 Redback Spider patrons, Aidan Furball, Lauren Hart, Amanda Vogue, Mary Civitano, Ross Devereux, and Atheist Pastor. I also want to say a very special thank you to my $35 Irukandji patron, Osman Kameth. I do want to say thank you so much to my patrons who've been so supportive. I understand it's a really rough time at the moment, and I just wanted to say I appreciate you all. Also to my wonderful fans as well, I just want to say I appreciate you. Please look after yourself and make sure you watch my previous video on the testicles.